Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. Don't fall in love with her. She'll ruin your appetite for ordinary. That's not advice, that's a warning. Because once a man gets a taste of a high-vibe Sigma female, the game changes permanently. She doesn't just enter his life, she rewires it. He won't crave validation anymore. He'll crave alignment. He won't fantasize about control. He'll fantasize about keeping up. And he won't want 10 women. He'll want 10 versions of her just to survive the withdrawal. And here's the wild part. A 2023 psychological study found that men are most psychologically hooked by women who create internal conflict between desire and emotional safety. Sound familiar? That's not just any woman, that's her. She's not magnetic because she's sexy. She's magnetic because she's unfazed, because she exists in a realm that most people haven't even located, let alone mastered. She's not chasing love. She's not auditioning for a title. She's not seeking to be chosen. She is the frequency that breaks the simulation. And here's what terrifies most men. She doesn't need them to feel complete, but they suddenly need her to feel real. Buckle up, because in this video we're diving deep into why men obsess over high-vibe Sigma females and why her energy isn't just attractive, it's straight up unrecoverable. And yes, if you've been wondering why your ex still watches your stories from 2019, yeah, this might explain a lot. Let's begin. Number 1. She doesn't trigger lust, she triggers spiritual hunger. Men don't just want to touch a high-vibe Sigma female, they want to understand what she triggered inside them. That's what separates her from everyone else. She doesn't just spark lust, she awakens something buried, a hunger that goes way beyond the physical. It's a hunger for clarity, for meaning, for depth, for something they can't even name yet. At first they think it's attraction. They feel the pull, the intensity, the fascination. But it quickly becomes obvious that this isn't about sex. It's not about possession. It's not even about romance in the traditional sense. It's about the way she exposed something in them. A glimpse of a higher version of themselves they didn't know they were starving for. Something clean, something powerful, something sacred. She doesn't do this on purpose. She's not playing games. Her energy just speaks a different language. One that bypasses surface-level desires and goes straight to the soul. And once a man's soul has been activated like that, every other interaction starts to feel fake, noisy, or empty. Women who used to excite him now feel flat. Conversations that used to matter now feel recycled. His whole sensory system is scrambled. That's why she's unforgettable. Because the craving she creates can't be satisfied by anyone else. It's not her looks, not her charm, not even her mind. It's the way her presence reached something in him that he didn't even know was there. And now that it's been touched, he can't unfeel it. He can't undo the inner shift. He can't go back to sleep. So he keeps coming back, maybe not physically but energetically. He watches her, thinks about her, compares others to her, not because he wants to own her, but because deep down he knows she didn't just turn him on. She turned something on inside him. And now he's starving for more. But only she speaks that frequency. Number 2, men don't want to own her. They want to be chosen by her. Men don't fantasize about owning a high-vibe Sigma female. They fantasize about being chosen by her. And that difference is everything. She's not the type you win over with strategy or status. She can't be gotten through charm or chased into submission. She sees right through performance. So when a man realizes she's chosen him, not out of loneliness, not out of pressure, but from pure alignment, that does something to his psyche that's hard to explain. It's not validation. It's not ego fuel. It's a kind of sacred recognition that hits on a soul level. Because deep down, every man knows. She didn't choose him because she needed someone. She chose him because he matched something rare within her. That kind of selection, it feels divine. It feels earned. And that's why it leaves a mark. She doesn't scatter her energy. She doesn't settle. So if she opens up her inner world to a man, he knows he's the exception. Not because he played the game better, but because he stopped playing altogether. He met her where she lives, in truth, in resonance, in wholeness, and that's intoxicating. Most men are used to women who try to please them, impress them, win them over. But with her, it's reversed. She's the gravity. Her love isn't offered as currency, it's given like a right. And once a man has felt that, everything else feels transactional. That's why obsession grows after her. It's not about control. It's about craving that one moment of realness again. That moment where a woman who owes the world nothing looks you in the eye and says, without saying a word, "You're in." Not because she's lonely, not because she's impressed, but because something about your soul matched the frequency of hers. And once you've been chosen like that, no other connection will ever compare. Number 3. She's both the flame and the forest, uncontainable, yet centering. A high-vibe Sigma female isn't easy to categorize because she doesn't live in one emotional tone. Her energy is both wild and grounding, chaotic and serene, fierce and gentle. One moment, she's untouchable fire. The next, she's deep-rooted calm. That contrast isn't confusing, it's spellbinding. Men aren't just drawn to her, they're pulled, trying to make sense of something that can't be reduced to a type. She doesn't move through life in a predictable arc. She's not the strong woman, or the nurturing one, or the seductive mystery. She's all of it, and none of it, depending on what truth the moment calls for. She can cut through your ego with a look that says, "Don't even try," then turn around and speak to the part of you that hasn't been comforted in years. That kind of duality cracks men open. They don't just chase her for affection or validation. They chase her because they want to understand her. But she's not a puzzle you solve, she's a living paradox you experience. Her presence invites stillness and ignites movement. She makes men feel both humbled and exalted. She stirs up their chaos and then centers it. She becomes an inner obsession, not because she's hard to get, but because she's hard to define. Men used to linear attention, predictable interest, clear roles, emotional formulas, don't know what to do with someone who exists in such raw, honest fluidity. One day, she brings fire. The next, she brings shelter, not as a tactic, but as a reflection of how deeply she's mastered her own emotional spectrum. That multidimensionality doesn't just impress men, it transforms them. It forces them to expand their own emotional vocabulary just to keep up, to hold space for a woman who can't be boxed, managed, or subdued. She's the flame that scorches their false identities, and the forest that gives them peace they didn't know they were missing. That kind of energy doesn't just attract, it marks you. Number 4. She radiates nervous system safety while remaining emotionally untouchable. Being around a high-vibe Sigma female feels like emotional anesthesia. Men don't even realize how tense they've been until her presence makes their entire system relax. She doesn't demand, she doesn't chase, she doesn't emotionally flood the room. Her energy is spacious, grounded and steady. And in a world full of performative intensity and chaos, that calm hits like a drug. For men who are constantly in performance mode, trying to prove, impress, dominate, being around her feels like peace they didn't know they needed. Their guard drops, their nervous system stops bracing. Her vibe says, "You don't have to earn your place here, just be real." That kind of energetic safety is rare, and once felt, it's hard to walk away from. But here's the paradox. Just when they start to feel safe, they try to reach for more. They want to own that feeling, to lock it down. They want to be the one she finally opens up to. But when they reach for emotional possession, they hit a hard, invisible wall. Because while she's calm, she's not available in the way they expect. She gives peace, but not control. She gives presence, but not dependence. She gives warmth, but not access to her emotional core, unless it's earned through deep trust and spiritual resonance. And that's where obsession begins. She becomes the mystery they can't crack. The peace they felt becomes a craving. The wall they hit becomes the challenge their ego has to solve. But it's not a game, it's her nature. She doesn't dangle intimacy like bait. She just exists in a place most men haven't been invited into, and probably couldn't survive if they were. That combination of serenity and inaccessibility is addictive. She becomes the one woman who makes a man feel both deeply soothed and wildly unsettled at the same time. She's sanctuary, she's enigma, and that's why men never forget her. Number 5. She activates a man's dormant masculinity without saying a word. A high-vibe Sigma female doesn't try to awaken a man's masculinity, it just happens in her presence. She's not doing it through seduction, flattery, or manipulation. She doesn't lean in, lower her voice, or bat her lashes to inspire him. It's her sheer self-possession that does it. Her energy is so complete, so grounded, so unapologetically sovereign that a man's dormant masculine wiring jolts to life without her needing to say a word. She doesn't demand he be strong. Her existence requires it, not through pressure, but through contrast. She is deeply in her center. She knows who she is. She carries herself with a calm intensity that leaves no room for passivity. And when a man steps into that field, he has two choices: rise or retreat. She triggers his instinct to protect, lead, focus, not because she needs those things, but because her presence highlights where he's lacking them. Her boundaries expose his indecision. Her emotional discipline reveals his scattered energy. Her calm shakes up his chaos. She doesn't call him out, but her energy does. And that silent challenge can be addictive. A man may not know why he can't stop thinking about her, but deep down it's because something about her makes him feel like he's not showing up as the man he could be. Not the performative version of masculinity, but the real, inner alignment kind. The kind rooted in clarity, purpose, and inner leadership. The kind he's never been forced to confront until her. That's why he spirals. That's why she lingers. Because she doesn't just make him want her. She makes him want to become someone worthy of her. And that quiet transformation is something no ordinary woman ever awakened in him. She's not trying to fix him. She's not trying to inspire him. She just is, and that's what burns through his mediocrity like fire. Number 6. She's a mirror that reflects their untapped potential or exposes their emotional cowardice. A high-vibe Sigma female doesn't flatter egos, she exposes truth. She walks into a room and becomes a silent mirror, one that reflects back who you really are beneath the noise. For men, that experience is either exhilarating or excruciating. There's no middle ground. If a man is walking in integrity, building himself, confronting his own shadows, he feels seen by her, not praised, but recognized. And that recognition is electric. It awakens something primal and powerful in him, like she's validating the man he's becoming without ever saying a word. He feels elevated in her presence, sharper, more focused, more alive. But for the men who are hiding behind masks, ego, money, charm, status, her energy is unbearable. Not because she says anything, but because she doesn't fall for it. Her gaze doesn't cling to the surface. She sees the difference between performance and presence, between confidence and compensation. And that kind of perception is terrifying to a man who isn't ready to face himself. That's the trap. She doesn't judge, she doesn't belittle, but she illuminates. And when a man isn't living in alignment with who he could be, being in her presence feels like standing naked in front of a fire. He feels like a fraud, and that shame either makes him run or become obsessed with proving himself. Because deep down, every man wants to be seen as great by a woman who actually sees. And she does. She sees what he could be. And whether that inspires him to rise or unravel, the effect is unforgettable. She doesn't hand out false comfort. She won't coddle a man's illusions. But she will reflect his potential. And that reflection either becomes the fuel for transformation or the reason he can't stop thinking about her long after she's gone. She's not a fantasy. She's a spiritual checkpoint. And once you've stood in front of that mirror, you're never the same. Number 7. She's not impressed by access, wealth, or power because she is access. Most women are taught, directly or indirectly, to aspire to status, to be chosen by power, to see wealth and influence as markers of success. But a high-vibe Sigma female, she is the status. She doesn't orbit power, she embodies it. She doesn't chase men with access because she is access. To presence, to peace, to self-worth, to a kind of magnetic calm that can't be bought, borrowed, or faked. So when a man who's used to his money, his status, or his influence being enough walks into her world, he's immediately disoriented. The usual tricks don't land, the prestige doesn't register. Her expression doesn't change when he name drops or flexes. She's not dismissive. She just genuinely doesn't need what he's offering. That kind of indifference breaks his rhythm. It's not rebellion. It's not a front. It's that she's moved past external validation. She's rooted in self-sourcing, and that terrifies men who are used to being the destination. Around her they realize they're not the prize. They're being evaluated. Not for what they have, but for who they are when all of it is stripped away. That's why she becomes an obsession. She disrupts the very system that's rewarded them their whole lives. Her existence is a quiet rebellion against everything they've been taught women want. She doesn't need to be impressed because she's already complete, and that rewrites the entire script. Men who are used to being the center of attention suddenly want her to look at them with approval, even once. They want to feel that rare connection that can't be bought, but she's not withholding. She's just sovereign. And if her energy doesn't respond to yours, nothing you throw at her will change that. She is the rarest currency, self-generated worth. And once a man feels the emptiness of his performance reflected in her stillness, he realizes he's been chasing the wrong thing all along. And now he's chasing her. Number 8. Her energy doesn't ask to be desired. It forcibly rearranges the room. A high-vibe Sigma female doesn't try to be noticed, yet everyone notices. She doesn't seek attention, but the moment she walks in, something shifts. It's not loud, it's not performative, but it's undeniable. The energy in the room tilts, conversations stumble, eyes flicker toward her without even realizing it. It's like the atmosphere recognizes her before the people do. She doesn't enter a space trying to impress or command. She just is, fully and unapologetically. Her frequency is so intact, so self-contained, that the room bends around it. Men pick up on it immediately. Not consciously, it's something deeper, instinctive. A subtle jolt in their nervous system that makes them straighten their posture, lower their voice, question themselves. She doesn't ask for desire, she doesn't signal availability, she doesn't compete. But men start recalibrating their presence when she's near. They become more aware of their words, more intentional with their energy. It's not even about attraction at first, it's about gravity. They feel pulled, unsettled, and oddly reverent, and it lingers. Even if she never says a word, they remember how they felt when she was there. That inexplicable need to rise, to shift, to match something they didn't understand. Most women try to influence a room through appearance or attention, but she influences through vibration. She's the tuning fork that reveals everyone else's dissonance. This kind of presence isn't taught. It's embodied. It's the result of deep self-ownership. She's not performing identity. She's radiating essence. And that quiet power is far more commanding than any curated charm or strategic femininity. That's why men can't forget her. Because long after she's gone, the space she entered still feels slightly different. Like it remembers her. And so do they. Number 9. She lives in energetic integrity, not perception management. Most women are conditioned to adjust, to read the room, soften the edges, say the right thing, wear the right smile. It's not always conscious, it's survival, it's perception management. It's the art of being likable, desirable, acceptable. But a high-vibe Sigma female doesn't play that game. She doesn't need to be chosen, because she's already chosen herself. That changes everything. She lives in energetic integrity, which means she says what she means, shows up how she actually feels, and refuses to betray her own values just to fit into a role. There's no strategic softness, no polished performance. She won't pretend to be smaller just to be easier to love. And men aren't used to that. They don't know what to do with a woman who isn't bending to meet them. With her, there are no masks, no calculated responses, no emotional tap dancing to avoid judgment. If something doesn't sit right with her, she says it, or she walks. If something lights her soul, she leans in without apology. She's not controlled by how she might be perceived, but by what's real and aligned within her. That's rare, and it's disorienting. Men expect to lead the dance. With her, they realize the music's already playing, and it's not their song. She won't fake laughter. She won't feign interest. She won't flatter to keep the peace. And instead of feeling rejected, men feel exposed. Because suddenly they have to ask, why am I so thrown by her honesty? Why do I feel like I have to earn her clarity? That confusion quickly becomes obsession, because her refusal to dilute herself makes her unpredictable, powerful, and oddly magnetic. She becomes the standard they never saw coming, the woman who doesn't just look rare but feels real in a world full of carefully edited personas. She doesn't shape-shift, she stays rooted, and that unshakable presence, it's what keeps her echoing in their minds long after she's gone. Number 10. She's rare because she's not in the market. She is the market disruption. A high-vibe Sigma female doesn't play the game because she doesn't need to. She's not in the dating market trying to get noticed, compete, or secure anything. She's not out here looking for attention, swiping for validation, or molding herself to be more dateable. She's already enough, not because she says it, but because she lives it. Her self-worth isn't up for negotiation. And that breaks the algorithm. Most men are used to being the prize in a world where women are socialized to pursue security, affection, or proximity to status. They're used to being chased, flattered, and sought after, sometimes just for what they represent. But when they encounter her, none of that lands. Her indifference is not a strategy. It's genuine. She's not auditioning for anyone's life. She is her own center of gravity, and that's why she disrupts everything. She doesn't enter the scene hoping to be picked. She's not in the audience. She's the one who left the theater. While others are playing roles, she's off living in full creative control of her own script. And that throws men off more than they'll ever admit. Because when a woman like that doesn't flinch at their charm, their power, or their presence, it forces a reckoning. She is the market disruption, not because she's trying to dominate, but because she's not participating in the usual economy of approval and pursuit. And suddenly, she becomes the outlier, the exception, the anomaly, the one woman who doesn't need what everyone else is chasing. Men don't know how to compete for someone who's not competing. They don't know how to win over someone who doesn't want to be won. That destabilization quickly mutates into fascination. She's not hard to get, she's impossible to own. And that makes her unforgettable. Because in a world where everyone's playing the same tired game, she isn't even in the arena. She's the one who rewrote the rules and walked away. Number 11. She's unreproducible. No blueprint exists to copy her frequency. A high-vibe Sigma female can't be copied. She's not an archetype. She's not part of a trend cycle. You can't point to a list of traits and say, that's what she is. Because what makes her magnetic isn't just what she does. It's the frequency she carries, a kind of inner resonance that's been built through solitude, self-trust, and experiences most people couldn't survive, let alone integrate. She's unreproducible. Not because she's trying to be different, but because she isn't trying at all. There's no formula behind her energy, no aesthetic to mimic, no lifestyle blueprint to imitate. Her vibe comes from doing the uncomfortable, unseen inner work, the kind that doesn't post well on Instagram and can't be sold as a self-help product. It's spiritual muscle, not performance. Men who encounter her often try to find her again, in someone else. They look for the same presence, the same calm authority, the same raw authenticity. But they keep coming up short, because what they're really searching for is that soul-level imprint she left behind. The way she made silence feel safe, the way her boundaries made them feel both held and exposed, the way she didn't need them, but still made them want to become more. That kind of energy haunts you. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, lingering way. It lives in their psyche. It shows up when other people talk too much but say too little. It surfaces when they're with someone who wants to be desired but doesn't carry the weight of true self-possession. It echoes when they realize no one else has made them feel that seen without being seduced. And that's the trap. They can't recreate her, replace her, or move on from her using logic. Because there's no blueprint to copy. She was never following one to begin with. She's a one-off. And the moment they realize that, they stop searching for her in others and start realizing they lost something they can never replicate. Number 12. She engages with men's souls, not their egos. A high-vibe Sigma female doesn't interact with the version of a man that the world claps for. She sees right past his status, charm, achievements, or curated persona. Not because she's trying to humble him, but because she simply doesn't care about the performance. She's tuned in to something deeper. She meets him at the level of his essence, and that kind of engagement feels like a spiritual event. Even in the most casual settings, she has this way of locking into the part of him that he doesn't usually show anyone, the unguarded, uncertain, unpolished self, the version of him that's raw, real, and hidden beneath the layers of approval chasing and identity armor. And when a woman sees you like that, not through pity or romantic fantasy, but through pure presence, it disarms you completely. Men don't expect it. They're used to being praised for what they do, not for who they are. But she doesn't feed the ego, she doesn't inflate it or attack it. She bypasses it, and that's what makes her unforgettable. Because once a man has experienced what it's like to be seen without having to perform, every other connection starts to feel flat, like background noise. Surface-level women might still be beautiful, kind, even exciting, but they don't reach that same frequency. They don't activate the soul. They don't touch the blueprint. So even if a man moves on, he'll feel a strange hollowness. He'll notice how hard it is to recreate that kind of soul contact. And whether he admits it or not, a part of him will always crave it again. She's not trying to fix or change him. She's just speaking to a version of him he may not have fully met yet. And that silent recognition of who he really is beneath everything stays with him. Because once you've been seen like that, ego attention feels cheap. And she made him feel real. She doesn't chase, she doesn't perform, and she doesn't apologize for being too much or not enough. The high-vibe Sigma female simply is, and that being alone disrupts everything men thought they knew about attraction, power, and connection. She's not alluring because she tries to be. She's magnetic because she's in complete energetic alignment. She has nothing to prove, and that nothing becomes the very thing men can't stop trying to earn. She's the mirror they didn't ask for, the flame they can't control, the calm they never knew they needed. She doesn't ask for devotion, but her presence commands it. She awakens the part of them they've buried beneath bravado, performance, and noise. And once a man has tasted that level of soul-deep contact, everything else becomes noise. She's not rare because she's elusive. She's rare because she's real, in a world where most people are stuck trying to be chosen, trying to be liked, trying to be more of something they're not. She's none of that. And that's why she doesn't just enter a man's life. She rewires it. This isn't about romance. It's about resonance. This isn't about being ungettable. It's about being unshakably whole. So men don't just fall for her. They fall into obsession, reflection, and sometimes even transformation, because she didn't touch their body first. She touched their consciousness. If this resonated with you, don't just scroll on. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more brutally real insights into Sigma energy, soul-level attraction, and what makes these rare individuals truly unforgettable. And if you know someone who's been haunted by a woman like this, share this with them. They'll understand. Until next time, protect your energy, live in alignment, and never shrink to fit into rooms you were born to outgrow.